We're going to look at some common structures of scholarly articles. One very common structure for articles that conduct experiments is called the IMRD structure, which stands for Introduction, Methods, Results, and Discussion. This article, which, as it notes, is a short report, is a very clear representative of this genre of introduction, methods, results, and discussion. And it's very easy to see them, how it's laid out. Typically, the very first introductory section is not labeled as introduction, but it's clear because it comes at the very beginning of the article that it is the introduction. So we see here's the introduction about background studies, and then we start with the methods. And that is a relatively short section as well. Then they begin explaining the results. And then they interpret the results a little more in the discussion to explain what the implications of those might be and what some directions for future research might be to make it clear what's important about these results. That is the very typical scientific report structure in a nutshell. Now let's look at another study that has a different take on the structure. It's not as straightforward in listing its different sections as the IMRD setup that we just looked at was, but it basically follows many of the same sections. The labels are just a little different because they're section titles that have to do with the content there that are more specific than those generic titles of introduction or method, results. And we'll see what some of those are here. This is about a study of publications put out by the AARP about technological literacy to suggest their attitudes that they present about older adults and technology. And so this first section that didn't have a title is the introduction, and then they get into some more specific categories within the introduction and background material, and they give those titles like Independence, Dignity, and Purpose, AARP, and the Second Career. So this goes into examples of this theme in AARP literature. And then the AARP reading list, it describes some of the publications that they put out. Okay, and that's important because that's what this analytical study will be looking at. Okay, so then it explains some of the theory behind the ways that elderly people are discussed in these technology publications. And then finally it gets into more of the method there. The texts that were looked at in this study and the analysis, what the procedures were for that analysis. And then here's some of the results in a chart there. And more results are discussed, but instead of a section that just says results, they label it 3 Principles of Technological Literacy for Older Adults. Okay, and so that continues with headings that focus on the specific content for that section and what those findings are, rather than just saying things like results and discussion. This is fairly typical for many articles that you'll find that deviate a bit from that classic scientific structure of IMRD. And then you'll find other examples like the analysis of the Edgar Allan Poe novel that we looked at in the quotation video that has absolutely no section headings at all. It's one essay, and the transition from paragraph to paragraph takes you through the structure of the article rather than any section headings that do so.